In a world ravaged by war, tyranny, and betrayal, a child survived an attempted assassination, the child who would one day be known as Dhul-Qarnayn. He journeyed across the earth from west to east, not as a conqueror driven by ambition, but as a defender of justice, a king who shattered tyranny, built civilizations, and raised a colossal iron barrier to shield humanity from the savage beings whose very name still sends chills through time, Gog and Magog. The Quran immortalizes his story. Great nations witnessed his wisdom. Even Alexander the Great and countless world leaders found reflections and inspiration in the footsteps of this legendary king. Who was Dhul-Qarnayn? Prepare yourself. The veil is about to be lifted. The journey and legacy of Dhul-Qarnayn will be revealed through a different lens. Only on Noor Echoes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And they ask you, O Muhammad, about Dhul-Qarnayn. Say, I will relate to you something of his story. Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 83. This verse is a doorway that opens within the darkness of history, a first light tearing through the veil that separates legend from reality. Part of his story was inscribed in Revelation. The rest remained hidden in the corridors of time and in scattered manuscripts, yet its echoes still resound across tongues and memories of humankind. From that very point, the journey carries us back thousands of years to the vast plains of ancient Persia. There lived a king named Astyages, a mighty ruler with a kingdom that stretched wide, yet governed by a fear far greater than his own throne. One night, he dreamt that his power would one day be destroyed by a grandson not yet born. When he learned that his daughter was with child, he issued a dark decree. The infant must be killed. But in the hands of a commander named Harpagus, destiny chose its own path. When he beheld the baby, fragile, small, yet radiating an indescribable presence, his conscience trembled. Instead of executing the order, he replaced the infant with a foundling corpse and secretly sent the child far to the south to a humble farmhouse. The child who would one day rise as a leader destined to shake the world. From his earliest years, intelligence and courage glowed within him like embers waiting to ignite. At the age of 10, his bravery led him into conflict with a young noble, an encounter that ultimately unveiled his true identity to King Astyages. The grandson he had sought to destroy still lived. The dream that had haunted him for years had come to pass. He was overthrown without bloodshed. And as time moved forward, the very child he had feared was chosen and nurtured into a ruler who viewed power not as an instrument of oppression, but as a responsibility to uphold justice. He elevated Harpagus, the man who once preserved his life, not to spill blood recklessly, but to help rebuild a world left in ruins. Thus many modern scholars connect the story of Dhul-Qarnayn with the grandson of Astyages, Cyrus the Great, based on history, archaeology, and his striking alignment with the Quranic character. However, regardless of who he may have been in the real world, the Quran does not require us to confine his story to a single historical name. Let us begin to understand the figure of Dhul-Qarnayn as narrated directly in Surah Al-Kahf, verses 83-99. The title Dhul-Qarnayn is not a mere ornament. It carries layered meanings and has long been a riddle that spans classical tafsir, historical manuscripts, and modern research. Some scholars interpret the title lexically as the one with two horns, which may refer to a horned crown or the two braids worn by ancient Persian kings. Others describe it as the possessor of two eras, two sources of power, outer and inner, two generations, or two cycles of glory. Meanwhile, many exegetes understand Dhul-Qarnayn as the ruler of two horizons, the east and the west, because he reached both edges of the known world and mastered them with extraordinary insight. Yet regardless of the interpretation, the Mufassirun agree on one thing: the title was given because he was a leader endowed by Allah with vast authority, deep wisdom, and journeys that pushed beyond the limits of his age. The Quran declares, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, "Indeed, we established him upon the earth, and we gave him the means to achieve all things." Quran, Surah Al-Kahfi, verse 84. This phrase indicates a divine mandate, not merely physical strength, but a complete arsenal of access, knowledge, and strategic capability. But were the powers of Dhul-Qarnayn entirely a direct gift from Allah, or did they also emerge from skills he learned and cultivated throughout his life? It is important to remember that Dhul-Qarnayn was never a passive figure. The divine trust placed upon him was shaped into real, tangible ability. He studied a vast spectrum of knowledge and civilizations: civilizational engineering, cross-cultural military strategy, inter-nation administration and diplomacy. By mastering multiple languages, astronomy and navigation, to understand the movements of the sun, the stars, and the seasons, so he could command expeditions across continents. And he mastered the science of metals and metallurgy, which later enabled the construction of the colossal barrier against Gog and Magog. Divine power was his foundation, but true leadership competence emerged through a long, disciplined journey of learning. Like a flame entrusted to a guardian, it must be controlled, directed, and preserved. In Dhul-Qarnayn, divine blessing and human effort never clashed. The authority granted by God was his engine, and his disciplined mastery of knowledge became the navigational system guiding his long journey. In the era when the light of revelation had only just descended in Makkah, an intellectual tension arose in Medina. Some among the Jews believed that the final prophet would come from their lineage. So when news spread of a man from Quraysh claiming prophethood, they posed a challenge. Ask him about the people of the cave, about Dhul-Qarnayn, and about the spirit. If he explains the people of the cave and Dhul-Qarnayn perfectly and the spirit partially, then he is truly a prophet. This challenge was brought to the Messenger of Allah, and Surah Al-Kahf was revealed, a chapter that not only unveils the mystery of the people of the cave and the spirit, but also takes us through the footsteps of a king who journeyed to the west, the east, and the far north, Dhul-Qarnayn. The Quran portrays him briefly, yet astonishingly. A leader granted immense authority and every means he needed to accomplish his mission. With the knowledge, technology, and divine legitimacy of his age, he began his first expedition, moving westward until he reached a place where the sun appeared to set into a dark, murky sea. There, he found a people torn apart by war, fear, and tyranny, divided between those who committed oppression and those who remained pure amidst the chaos. God's command came as an echo that eased the tension. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. O Dhul-Qarnayn, you may punish them, or you may treat them with kindness by inviting them to faith. Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 86. Yet Dhul-Qarnayn did not storm in with violence. He observed, listened, and read the body language of both the people and their rulers. He understood that true strength is not always marked by a drawn sword, but by the ability to conquer hearts and minds. Through precise diplomacy, Dhul-Qarnayn negotiated peace, exchanged interests, and built alliances. He could turn a dangerous situation into a solid network of cooperation, ensuring that every territory he visited remained stable without bloodshed, an ingenuity that even Alexander or Julius Caesar seldom possessed. He employed logic, psychology, and negotiation strategy, transforming enemies into partners and rivals into admirers. Dhul-Qarnayn's decision revealed the foundation of his leadership: stern punishment for tyranny and gentleness for those who believed and did good. Here, we begin to understand that for him, power was not a wild flame, but a scale of justice. Each step he took was more than a military maneuver. It was a strategic experiment, a moral simulation played out across the vast earth. When his mission was complete, he continued onward, reaching the lands of the East. Historians and Quranic exegetes have attempted to interpret this eastern land from many perspectives. Some point to the harsh highlands of Central Asia, where the steppe winds erode everything fragile. Others look toward the peaks of the western Himalayas, ancient corridors that once connected the civilizations of South Asia. Still others place it around India and Pakistan, cultural frontier regions that for centuries served as gateways for eastern expeditions of great empires. Yet its exact location remains veiled. The commentaries of Ibn Kathir, Al-Qurtubi and Al-Jalalayn emphasize that this place is not a literal point on a map, not a set of coordinates that can be plotted in an atlas. Rather, it is a moral and spiritual portrayal, a challenge for humanity, a terrain where wise leadership is put to the test. The journey east reveals a different kind of ingenuity, as described in the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 90. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. And when he reached the place where the sun rises, he found a people for whom we had provided no shelter from its heat. Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 90. In this scorching and barren land, the people had no protection from the burning sun, no irrigation systems, no established civilization. Dhul-Qarnayn did arrive, but he did not demand their instant faith. Instead, he observed their most basic needs. He taught them how to build homes that resisted the heat, how to channel river water into their fields, how to cultivate trees as natural shade. The king offered knowledge as a shield, not a wall. Every instruction and innovation he introduced came from careful calculation. How these people could survive, grow, and remain loyal to him without coercion. His brilliance was not only intellectual, but deeply practical, turning scarcity into order, efficiency, and sustainable living. On the boundless eastern horizon, the sun hung high in the sky, drenching the barren plains in searing light. Each instruction and innovation he introduced was the product of careful calculation, how the people could survive, flourish, and remain loyal without coercion. His brilliance was not merely intellectual, it was profoundly practical, transforming scarcity into order, efficiency, and sustainability. The journey to the east came to an end. Dhul-Qarnayn gazed across the horizon, a relieved smile crossing his face as he watched the once barren valley now thriving with prosperity. Every river, every orchard, every structure shielding them from the fierce sun stood as proof of the genius and strategy of a leader capable of conquering challenges without spilling needless blood. The rulers and the people who once feared his arrival now bowed in respect. With calm yet resolute steps, he bid them farewell and continued his journey. But as the evening sun sank beneath the eastern sky, a new shadow awaited. All his brilliance in the east and west had merely been preparation, for before him lay the darkest, most perilous expedition known to civilization. Two mountains that concealed the most terrifying threat in human history. A threat whispered even today with a fear that chills the soul. What awaited Dhul-Qarnayn there? Prepare yourself. We are entering the most mysterious chapter of his journey. Stay with us until the end. Dhul-Qarnayn and his army climbed through the narrow passes, nestled between two colossal mountains, rising like the gateway to another world. Dark, cold, and holding secrets that seemed to have waited centuries to be uncovered. From afar, an unnatural rumble echoed, a sound that pierced the stillness of the mountains, stirring tension even before he reached the summit.
What was that sound? I don't know, but stay alert. We have come to your land seeking passage, not conflict. Tell your people we mean no harm. We have come a long way.
In the north, between two mountains, lived a people cut off from the great centers of civilization. Their language sounded foreign. Every word required an interpreter, as if the distance between them was not merely one of space, but of history itself. They were not barbarians without order, but a people living in constant uncertainty, barely knowing the feeling of safety, relying on strength and agility to survive. And most terrifying of all, lurking beyond the shadows, roamed Ya'juj and Ma'juj, beings who spread fear, so brutal that tales of them echoed all the way to distant lands in the south.
The ancient Alan inhabitants were dazed and frightened.
Massive bodies, fearsome faces, eyes glowing like embers, the thundering of their steps shattered homes, fields, and every fragile sign of life. When Dhul-Qarnayn reached the valley, the terrified inhabitants sent a messenger. With trembling voices they said, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. O Dhul-Qarnayn, indeed Gog and Magog are corruptors on the earth. May we offer you tribute so that you will build a barrier between us and them. Quran Surah Al-Kahf, verse 94. Dhul-Qarnayn looked over the valley, feeling their fear, yet also calculating the terrain, the manpower, and the resources at hand. He smiled, not out of mockery, but because he knew that strategy and intellect would be his greatest weapons. Then he replied, "What my Lord has granted me, knowledge, kingship, power, and resources, is more than enough. Help me with your strength, and together we will build a barrier capable of stopping this wave of destruction."
We must stand united against this threat, and their numbers mean nothing against our resolve. We must hold the line here, against the coming storm. Their numbers are great, but our resolve is stronger.
There, beyond that passage, lies our destiny.
With workers and villagers preparing their tools, Dhul-Qarnayn began constructing a great barrier in the narrow passage between the two mountains. He did not command an attack. Instead, he orchestrated logistics and engineering. Massive blocks of iron arranged carefully, each piece measured to fit the natural curves of the mountains. He kindled fires in enormous furnaces, using bellows to heat the iron until it glowed, then poured molten copper over it to seal every opening from which Gog and Magog might emerge, forming a thick, unyielding wall of metal. Every step was a precise calculation, the fire hot enough to melt metal, yet safe enough for the workers. The weight of the iron distributed so the wall would not collapse. Every seam sealed tightly, so that Gog and Magog could neither dig through nor climb over. The barrier was built entirely from natural materials and human technique, using the terrain, gravity, and coordinated labor. The result was not merely a wall, but a meticulously engineered defense system, efficient, impenetrable, and enduring, proving that intellect and divinely guided strategy could overcome brutality without the sacrifice of a single drop of blood. Gog and Magog attempted to attack. They struck, they dug, and they tried to force their way through the barrier, but the wall of metal stood immovable. As narrated by Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, the Messenger of Allah said, "Gog and Magog dig through the barrier every day until when they are about to see the rays of the sun, their leader says, 'Go back, we will continue tomorrow.' Then Allah restores it and makes it stronger than before. This continues until the time comes when Allah wills to release them, and He then allows them to emerge and attack mankind. Their overwhelming strength, their rough hands digging tirelessly, their hardened feet pounding the earth, their fierce and monstrous faces could not penetrate the barrier built through the brilliance of Dhul-Qarnayn. It was as if the king's knowledge and strategy had veiled the wall from their perception, making their savage assaults strike nothing more than an empty shadow. The people who once lived in terror now began to breathe freely, their eyes wide and shimmering with relief as they witnessed a miraculous transformation. Homes stood secure. Fields flourished in safety. Children played without fear. And for the first time, they felt a rare and profound peace. They bowed respectfully to the king. Dhul-Qarnayn was not merely a ruler. He was a strategist, a protector, an architect of tranquility amid chaos. He transformed dread into security through wisdom and calculated brilliance. Though the thunderous blows of Gog and Magog still echoed faintly from behind the barrier, fear had begun to fade. Standing atop the colossal wall, Dhul-Qarnayn gazed over the valley, now safe, and proclaimed with unwavering certainty, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. This barrier is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes to pass, he will level it to the ground, and the promise of my Lord is surely true. Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 98. From the vast lands of the west, the scorching horizons of the east, to the remote valleys of the north, the journey of Dhul-Qarnayn was more than an expedition. It was a voyage of brilliance, obedience, perseverance, and the wisdom of a leader who understood that power and knowledge are merely instruments, not the goal themselves. Every fortress he built, every people he protected, revealed an eternal truth. Destiny works hand in hand with effort, and every victory is born from a process shaped with precision. The story of Gog and Magog remains a mystery, captivating human curiosity from age to age. They linger as shadows etched into the memory of mankind, beings who inspire not only fear, but who carry secrets that transcend time. Not only in Islam, but also in ancient Jewish texts, Christian scriptures, and the old legends of Gog and Magog, they are described as entities ferocious, wild, and beyond the boundaries of human comprehension. Who are they truly? Where did they come from? For what purpose were they created? These questions continue to haunt scholars, historians, and interpreters, an enigma waiting to be unraveled. And Noor Echoes will strive in our next gathering, inshallah, to delve deeper into who Gog and Magog are, their origins, and what they signify for the world. The lessons left behind by King Dhul-Qarnayn surround us every day, reflected in many different faces. They may not be kings, nor rulers of empires, yet anyone who uses knowledge, ingenuity, and steadfastness to protect others, to build goodness, and to spread peace carries within them a trace of Dhul-Qarnayn. May we be granted the strength to endure the trials of this age with wisdom, patience in facing hardship, and the discernment to build goodness around us. May every step we take become a shield of protection for others, and every effort we make spread tranquility, just as Dhul-Qarnayn did amidst chaos. To continue exploring every story, every lesson, and every mystery yet to unfold, subscribe to Noor Echoes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.